Hello, dear listeners. It's me, Vincent C. Davis, the creator of our favorite show, Out of the Ashes. I wanted to take a moment to share something special with you all. As you know, Out of the Ashes has finished its second season, and I have been hard at work to continue bringing you more content. What you just heard was the first of the Watchtower series, a series of mini-sodes that are first-hand accounts from the people in the network Jake started to share information. They're known as Watchers. You're going to hear them share the information with the network our beloved Watchtower has built. These spooky stories will bring an even deeper glimpse into the fantastical world we've created, filled with mystery, magic, and survival. But I have even more secrets to share. There's so much more to explore, so much more to uncover. That's why I invite you to join our Patreon community. For as little as $2 a month, you can become a patron and not only support our creative journey, but also gain access to the full series of minisodes, bonus content, and exclusive behind-the-scenes peeks. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more tales to life for you to enjoy. But there's one more thing I wanted to tell you about. Our upcoming book, titled Prophecies, The Last Light of Avalon. The first arc in this series of books connected to the Out of the Ashes universe. This book tells the full story of Morgana, from birth to present day. You can think of it as a standalone prequel to Season 3. It delves deeper into the lore, characters, and mysteries of our world, and will begin to connect some dots. It's a new chapter in our story, crafted with love and care. So, my dear friends, I urge you to join us on this incredible adventure. Visit our Patreon page, become parts of our community, and unlock the full potential of our story. Your presence and support mean everything to us. Thank you for listening, for being a part of this journey with us, and let's make it truly unforgettable.
Herbalist Watchtower. Watchtower, this is the herbalist. Are you there? It's fine. It's my fault. I was trapped by ghosts. I didn't even believe in restless spirits, not really. I mean, my grandmother used to tell me stories about them and how to ward them off, but I just thought they were superstition. I believed in bad wiring, in old pipes knocking behind walls, in drafts that made doors sigh in the night. I believed in grief, echoing through places where too much had happened. Then the collapse happened. Everything changed. You know, I used to think the worst thing about the collapse was the silence. No traffic, no power lines humming, no televisions bleeding noise through apartment walls. I was wrong. The worst thing is what moved into that silence after we left the lights off too long. There's an old saying, idle hands are the devil's playthings. Well, what about idle spaces? I know how I sound, but if you would have seen what was in this house, you would understand. I was out on a supply run. The house stood at the edge of what used to be a subdivision, outside of what had once been suburban Ohio. The lawns were dead, the mailboxes leaned like broken teeth. Most structures had already been stripped for lumber and copper. But this one was intact. Windows unbroken, front door closed. No scorch marks from the riots. No scavenger tags spray painted across the siding. Untouched places are never untouched. They're claimed. I only meant to shelter there for the night. The storms are getting worse. Ash carried on strange winds from fires that still burn somewhere out west. My pack was light. My hands were cracked from the cold. The door opened easily. It locked behind me just as easily. Not slammed, not blown by wind. I heard the deadbolt slide home with a deliberate, metallic certainty. I tried the handle immediately. It wouldn't budge. I checked the windows. Every one of them looked out onto the dead street, but when I pushed against the glass, it resisted, like I was pressing into some kind of gel. The world outside, it kind of waved, like it was distorted. Then I felt the air inside the house, and it felt wrong. That was when the pacing began upstairs. Slow at first, measured steps crossing the hallway above me. The second floor had no furniture, no footprints in the dust. I'd checked. The steps didn't belong to anything with weight. The ceiling didn't creak the way wood does under a body. The sound just existed, as if the memory of footsteps was replaying itself over and over. By nightfall, the house had begun to breathe. I don't mean metaphorically. The walls expanded and contracted like they were a pair of lungs. The air pressure shifted against my ears. Cabinets opened and closed without sound. The temperature dropped so fast I got goosebumps across my entire body. The restless spirits weren't subtle. They weren't whispers in corners. They were furious. In the old world, people would have called a priest, or a paranormal team with infrared cameras and EMF readers. We don't have those luxuries anymore. What we have are older things. My grandmother used to say the land remembers, that when grief and violence saturate a place long enough, it doesn't disappear when the bodies do. It lingers. And when the world broke, when cities burned and people died without rites, without burial, without closure, something shifted. There are too many unfinished souls now. The second night, the house pressed in on me. Doors slammed in sequence down the hallway. The pacing turned into running. Shadows thickened until they looked almost three-dimensional, peeling themselves from the corners and stretching toward me. They didn't want me dead. They wanted me to stay. Restless spirits feed on containment, on trapped breath, on the panic of something alive in a sealed space. I remembered the old ways then. Not religion, ritual. Salt was the first thing. I found a sealed container in the kitchen. Coarse, clumped, but usable. Salt preserves. Salt draws lines. Salt reminds things where they end. I poured it carefully, making a circle around myself in the living room, across the base of the doors, along the windowsills. The reaction was immediate. The pacing above me faltered. The shadows recoiled as if burned. Then, iron. There was an old fireplace poker rusting beside the hearth. Iron grounds energy, anchors it. In the old world, people wore iron for protection without remembering why. I dragged the poker across the threshold of the front door, scoring the wood deep enough to splinter. I hammered a bent nail from a picture frame into the doorframe above it. The house screamed. Not with a voice, with pressure, with an eruption of energy. Every cabinet door blew open at once. The upstairs floorboards shook like something was throwing itself against them. The air turned so cold, my fingers went numb. The spirits were angry because boundaries were forming. I burned what I could find next. Dried sage from a decorative bundle hanging in the kitchen, bay leaves from the pantry. Smoke crawled into the corners, thick and bitter. Smoke carries intention. It cleanses what clings. I spoke while I worked. You are not welcome in my breath. You do not own this body. This house is not your cage anymore. You have to speak with authority. Doubt feeds them. The walls pulsed violently, then stuttered. The pressure shifted. The salt lines began to dissolve, not from wind, but as if something corrosive was pushing against them from the inside. The iron nail above the door vibrated in place. I didn't wait. I drove the poker into the seam of the door and forced it open. That was when the outside air hit me like cold water. Real wind, real ash, real sky. I stumbled into the street and turned back. The house looked dead again, still, just wood and brick. But I know what was inside it. We created a world where millions died without ritual, without goodbye, without grounding. We tore up the land, poisoned the rivers, and thought consequence was something that came in the form of governments or markets. We were wrong. Consequence lingers. Our ancestors understood thresholds. They marked doors. They salted corners. They burned herbs not because it was quaint, but because they knew the unseen matters. In this new world, we don't have infrastructure. We have memory. Salt, iron, smoke, intention. That's what saved me. And if we don't relearn the old boundaries, if we don't respect the spaces between the living and the dead, then the empty houses across this broken country won't stay empty much longer. They'll be waiting. And next time, the door might not open at all.
A special thank you to Daisy McNamara for voicing the herbalist.